There's a lot of people that are upset about people buying houses from Toronto in Sudbury because it is pushing the prices up, but it's just the way that affordability works, right? And then you want to help everyone do the best job, but by saying yes to everyone, then you forget about some people.
For sure.
Unfortunately, right? It wasn't what I...
And we're going to talk more about your team. You guys seem to be killing it out there, man. Like, all those guys seem to be like on it as well, you know, like they were good choices. They're a good fit. They fit the same, and they're like doing the social media and all that stuff too. So it's like, it's pretty impressive that you were able to find and put together a team of that size in a place like Sudbury that quickly. Mm-hmm. Morgan Little here with Tristan Ritchie, straight out of Sudbury. Came all the way down here for this podcast and the Raptors game. One of those is more important than the other, obviously. Today we go into Sudbury, investing in real estate, Airbnbs, what's changing, what's happening, where he sees himself in the future. It's a lot to unpack. Let's get into it. Welcome back. We got Tristan Ritchie with us here today. Sudbury, investor-friendly realtor, father, basketball aficionado. What else? What else can we say?
The outdoors too. Part of why I love Sudbury.
The outdoors, yeah. All right. Yeah. So thank you for coming all the way from Sudbury for this podcast today. Not true at all. We went to the Raptors game last night. Yeah. We won, so that's a win. Let's get into it. So Sudbury, let's get right into it. Like, there's been a massive influx, I think, of outside investors coming into Sudbury, right? And you have been a big part in helping people find properties and help guide them in that process. So when did you find that kind of started, that you saw the influx of people coming into Sudbury?
There was always a few here and there before COVID, like when I started about 8 years ago.
Right.
And then once COVID hit, I think a lot of people started reading books on investing, the social media aspect, showing off their property, showing the numbers. People got really excited about that. And then also the affordability. People were in Toronto, well, as you guys all know, it's so expensive. Like, you grow up not really, some people it's not even a dream to own a home, right? It's like, hey, it's just never gonna happen. I'm gonna rent for my whole life. In Sudbury, you basically expect to own a home right away, right as soon as you're done school, get a job, buy a home because it's so cheap.
The Canadian dream.
Yeah, exactly. With a big lot, fenced in, garage, right? You can get it all. So I think when the prices started to creep up, people started to see Sudbury and be like, hey, we can buy a home, an investment property, and it cash flows a lot. Like when COVID started, it was 10% cap rates.
Right.
So huge cash flow.
Yeah, unheard of now.
Yeah.
Crazy, yeah. So, and do you find, okay, so that's obviously pushed prices up, like everywhere else prices have gone up. So have you noticed that a lot in Sudbury, and has there been a sentiment around the price of housing in Sudbury?
Oh yeah. So the locals, the older people, super frustrated. There's a lot of people that are upset about people buying houses in Toronto, from Toronto in Sudbury because it is pushing the prices up, but it's just the way that affordability works, right? People see the opportunity there. And the prices have been going up, but what people in Sudbury used to think is like, oh, these people in Toronto have a ton of money and they're buying these $1 million homes in Sudbury, which wasn't the case.
Right.
It's average people like us that make money, but just not enough to buy in Toronto that wanted to buy an investment there.
Right.
So it was actually the lower price points that were competing with the first-time home buyers, which pushed that price point up, which then those people, locals in Sudbury, were buying, stepping up, and buying the more expensive properties.
And just for context, what was like average price in Sudbury kind of pre this whole thing happening?
$275.
And now?
We hit 5 this year, but we're back down to $390. Right.
Okay. So doubled, and more than doubled now, a little less than.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. That's really interesting. And so what do you think it is about Sudbury that has attracted people? Because, I mean, there's a lot of little towns, right, that they could go to outside of Toronto. Sudbury's not the closest, but what do you think it is?
We're like the northern hub, so there's a lot of other little towns that people were investing in, Sault Ste. Marie, North Bay. But Sudbury is the biggest one and the most, in my opinion, the most established in terms of our baseline for jobs. So we have the CRA, which is a huge employer, just over 3,000 jobs. obviously the mining is huge. Or nickel, one of the biggest nickel mines in the world.
Nickel City.
Yeah, exactly. Nickel City, 5 cent city. And then the hospital is a northern hub. So if they can't get something, it's like us in Sudbury, we go up to Toronto if we can't get a surgery in Sudbury, but the other northern cities come to Sudbury for certain surgeries that they can't get there. Right. So we're like the hub, and we're still smaller city, but 23rd biggest in Canada, I think.
I was going to say, it's not really, relative to Canada, it's not really a small city. I didn't know it was 23rd in Canada actually, but it's not, I mean, it's a good size town. You know.
And if you go, like you've been a couple of times, right? So
I grew up in Sudbury.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you know, like it feels different when you're there than if you've never been. Yeah. I have a lot of investors. Actually, 3 of them are started investing in Sudbury, going to visit every once in a while, and are moving there. Right. Like they want to raise a family, you know, they don't want to raise a family in a condo, so they say, hey, I just want a bigger yard. Yep. And they said the people are friendlier. I don't know.
They said, okay. Fair enough.
Friendly people all over, I
think. In their, I guess, somewhat limited experience of the people they've dealt with, they've had a good experience. So that's great. Yeah. That's a good representation for Sudbury.
Exactly.
Don't let it represent all of them. They didn't go downtown, I guess, but.
Yeah, exactly.
And so how did you kind of find, or how did they find you, these investors, and able for you to help them? Because you seem to have become the go-to guy there for people who are looking to, you know, expand in that area.
Yeah, I got, you know, you get lucky in life sometimes, and I was do a lot on social media, and the Rise podcast reached out, and they were starting to get traction, and it was all like the target audience of new investors and everything. So I went on the podcast. Sudbury became a super hot topic for investors, and that year I did almost like 120, sold 120 rental properties, just basically from the podcast. And then
so you see a direct correlation from when you did that and the explosion of that. Crazy. Okay, that's cool. But obviously there must have been people were finding you or seeking you out previously to that, I'm sure.
Yeah. Okay. I had a good business before, and then I just got too busy. Like I was dropping the ball so much, if I'm being honest. Like,
oh, really?
That's why I had to start the team.
Right.
I felt bad, and it's hard to say no to business, and then you want to help everyone do the best job, but by saying yes to everyone, then you forget about some people.
For sure.
Unfortunately, right? It wasn't what I wanted
and we're going to talk more about your team. But I'm curious, is your business primarily investors, or is it a mix of both?
It's a mix of both. Yeah. I wouldn't say primarily investors, especially not now. Right. It was a little bit investors, because I was an investor myself, so I could talk the language and explain it the way that people like to hear it. And then, but I would do a lot more residential. I find it also fun, right? You see the big homes, do the videos and all that. But then, bunch of investors reached out, so of course I'm gonna help them out. Yeah.
And what do you think the biggest kind of like sticking point for investors is? Like, what are they, because there's definitely certain areas in Sudbury that you want to, you know, avoid maybe, or, you know, so I think there's kind of blanket ideas about certain areas too, and some people are scared of certain areas, but is there any kind of common theme amongst investors that you see that you have to school them on, or that you know, the learning curve of the new investor coming into Sudbury?
Yeah, like if the numbers look too good to be true, they likely are, and it's because you're in a certain area. Yeah. Our titles as a salesperson, but I have veered people away from certain areas because most of them always come back to me and say, I shouldn't have bought here. And then I can show them a screenshot like, hey, I told you. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And like, I want them to buy a property and be happy, make some money, but the cash flow looks really good in our ghettos, right? The Donovan flour mill. Yeah. And but it's because you're gonna have a lot more issues with your tenants. Yeah. Likely.
And I think you gave a stat. I saw you speak at Corey McKinnon's thing. You gave a stat about the percentage of landlord-tenant tribunal disputes that happen in those two areas. Yeah. And what was it?
85%.
85%. So I guess that's pretty convincing, because I always say, because a lot of people are like, oh, I'm staying away from Donovan flour mill anytime I have conversations with people. And growing up there, I'm not as scared of those areas as some people might be certain streets for sure, but others, you're kind of okay. But with numbers like that, it kind of, maybe makes.
Which part did you grow up?
Oh, I grew up in the West End.
Okay.
But I just mean just being from Sudbury, so I'm not scared of those areas in general, because people who aren't, they've heard, don't go to those areas. Just stay away from them completely, right?
And it's funny too, because it's Sudbury. Our bad areas aren't bad.
Yeah.
Really, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel threatened.
No, yeah, and it's not even that. It's about potential for non-payment.
Yeah,
right?
that's what it is.
Or damage, or there's definitely a drug issue, like in those areas. So,
but isn't there everywhere?
For sure. But I feel like Sudbury is kind of a special place, though.
A little worse.
yeah. In certain areas, though.
Yeah.
In certain areas, so it's interesting. Yeah, no, I still call it the West End, but I guess when I was a kid, I never knew it as Little Britain. But that's
it's just
the
what
area.
Everyone started calling it for some reason.
Yeah.
Little Britain's like the McKim Street kind of. There's like a little section that's
Right.
technically Little Britain.
Okay.
But everyone calls it like the whole West End.
Right.
So
I grew up beside the Caruso Club, so like.
Yeah. Well, that's either.
Yeah. But yeah. Anyways, off topic there, but so do you basically say don't go to those areas then? Is that kind of
I don't say that, no. Yeah. If you want to be a very active investor, then that could be a good area to invest in. If you're very good and confident in your tenant screening process, that could be a good area, more cash flow. And there's certain streets that actually good bang for your buck in the Donovan. Mm-hmm. Like you said, there's certain ones I would stay away, but there's a few that actually sell for a decent dollar and you can get good rents and people enjoy living there, like the uptown part of the Donovan. If you look on a map, the Donovan word is written right on top of it.
Right.
But that's uptown below Kathleen, and really nice area. Those used to be like the executive homes of Sudbury.
Right.
So those you can get good bang for your buck, the mid-century modern.
Yeah. Okay, so good to know though that it's not just a blanket. Stay away from that.
Yeah, exactly.
And you mentioned social media. You started doing more and more. At what point did you start kind of focusing on that?
Right from the start, and I got lucky kind of with the timing that I got into the business. My broker at the time and team lead, I joined his team, and he's like, start making videos, start making content. And I had no clients at the time, so I had the time, and so I started doing it, and it kind of became a habit. So I'm lucky he pushed me into it, but I'm also lucky that it was Sudbury.
Yeah.
They're so far behind that you can jump ahead and have some success in any industry just by looking at like what you guys here in Toronto are doing. Yeah. Right? Like just where we are in this office here, there's nothing like this in Sudbury.
Right.
So like you guys innovate. If you bring ideas to Sudbury, you're like ahead of the crowd. So that's when I really started doing a lot of social media. Okay. And have you noticed success from that? Oh, tons. Yeah. That's where I get most of my leads. Really, eh? Yeah. And so, so that brings me to another topic I want to talk about is marketing. I've seen your billboards. But do you do a lot of marketing, or do you find that like kind of your online presence, your social media is attracting people to you more and more now? I try to do both. Yeah. The billboards and stuff is more for when you meet someone in person, it solidifies your expertise. Yeah. And then the social media part is more to just it's bigger reach. Yeah. So I try to do both, and I'm always I enjoy. That's probably one of the parts I love most about being a realtor is like just experimenting with different marketing techniques. And I really enjoy doing that. So. Right. And so what made you join Lake City versus, a larger brokerage or even, something like EXP probably wasn't even around much when you started, but. Yeah, not when I started, but yeah. But yeah, what made you choose Lake City? My broker, and he's the one who got me into real estate. We were at Coldwell Banker, then he started Lake City himself. Oh, okay. So you started at Coldwell Banker. Yeah, I was on his team. And I just joined Coldwell Banker because of him, and then he's been mentoring me, so I could save a ton of money probably going to AXP or Real or whatever, but I just have too much, like I owe him too much for everything that he's done for me. Right. And I like to push the envelope sometimes, and he always has my back. Cool, so just having that is worth it to me. That's great. Yeah, the brokerage I'm with as well is just kind of a small boutique brokerage, and I get calls from recruiters all the time, and it's just like I
I don't have any pain or any reason to leave, you know. Yes, I see the benefit of, you know, some of these others, but yeah, to have that support is massive, right? The brokerage doesn't matter that much
anymore. It doesn't matter at all.
So that's cool that he, you know, had that vision early on to get you to start doing videos and stuff like that. Cause that's it. That's where everything happens now, right? That's where everybody's eyes are, and that's where marketing is. So that's good that you kind of got a step up, not only in general, because not a lot of realtors are just getting to that now, but also in Sudbury specifically, where I think there's probably a lot of a bit of an old school mentality there amongst real estate professionals, and not that there's
lots of dinosaurs over there.
Yeah. Have you, is there a good community there? Like, do you run into kind of resistance towards like newer methods of? Oh
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Especially at the start. I was trying to make it more, I didn't want to be a sales guy. I wanted to be like make everything transparent. So I was saying some of the secrets, like we do open houses. They help sell the house, but you do them to get clients, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I was like talking about that. Like the reason we do open houses is like selfishly as well. We want to get clients, meet people that are shopping. Mm-hmm. And I had calls from like 5-6 realtors calling me like, why are you saying this in videos online, right? But the people that saw that were like, oh, like he's being honest about it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I attracted a certain type of seller or buyer, and that's the people that I want to work with, and it's working out.
Cool. And so you talked about building a team up because you were getting too much business. Is that kind of what triggered it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Was that a plan from the start?
Sort of. I didn't think it kind of would happen the way that it did. I'm still trying to figure it out, to be honest. But with all the investors coming in, like I was already busy, and like that year I had like 2 panic attacks. I've never had like super anxiety or anything, but yeah, that year was just crazy. I randomly like started shaking because I was just so busy.
Just so busy. Wow.
You know when you just think like, I forgot to text person.
Yeah.
Forgot to text this person. Forgot to text this person. It was like all constant.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I need to get someone to work with me to at least take on some of these buyers, because it's hard to say no, right? You want to help everyone. Of course, yeah. But it's impossible. So started the team, got a couple admins for marketing and the paperwork side, and I was trying to figure out the nooks and crannies.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a good problem to have, but I guess not a good problem if you're having panic attacks. That's maybe in hindsight, it was a good thing to happen, because it's made you expand. And so you started with admin? Yeah. Yeah. And then how many agents do you have now?
3.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So that's Zach, Garrett,
and Mason.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, you guys seem to be killing it out there, man. Like all those guys seem to be like on it as well, like they were good choices. They're a good fit. They fit the same, and they're like doing the social media and all that stuff too. So it's like, it's pretty impressive that you were able to find and put together a team of that size in a place like Sudbury that quickly, Yeah,
they actually reached out to, like Mason reached out to me because he liked doing the video stuff. Garrett was one of my best friends.
Okay.
The only thing that I probably would have done a little different is maybe get someone a little bit more experienced. Like they're doing an awesome job, don't get me wrong. But when you have someone with experience, that's like right now, it's a lot of training, right?
Okay. Yeah.
It's more of a mentorship. I like doing that. Yeah. So for me, it's good. But if you have someone that at least has some experience, then you can kind of work on the higher level stuff, growing the business
for sure
on a bigger scale.
And so have you had mentorship or help in the like area of building a team, or have you just been kind of figuring it out because you have to?
Just figuring it out as you're
okay.
One thing you learn, we were talking about that with kids too. You just like kind of figure it out as you go.
Yeah, exactly.
And, I love listening to podcasts and learning, so I try to implement as much as I can. But you just realize how little you know the more you learn. Yeah,
and that's the best way to learn is to do. It's really the only real way. But it's the same thing as like we said with kids. It's like you're gonna have to do it at some point. It's coming, and then it happens, and you're like, holy shit, I'm doing it now. What do I do?
Yeah, they just send you home.
Yeah.
You're just like, what?
Yeah. And so speaking of which, how do you find balancing family and work?
Super. Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah.
For sure. especially now that she sometimes like, oh, you said you'd be home for supper, and like, our job, we got to sometimes just go zip out for a showing really quick. But that is why I wanted a team as well. They can help with some of the evening showings.
Yeah.
Try to time block a little bit more.
Yeah.
And be more present too when I'm there, not just on my phone following up. So it is very, very difficult, but me and Becca have good conversations about why I'm doing it. But I also have to be more mindful of them as well and kind of actually balance it. Yeah.
I think it's a constant process and struggle to balance it and try to find, I don't think anybody's got it figured out or dialed in, but you talked about time blocking and I listen to a lot of podcasts too. And I think a big part of it is really blocking off specific time for significant others and for families, so that it might not even be a ton of time, but it's that's all you have during that time, nothing else. So it makes it more quality time, which I think can go a long way versus, always being 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Yeah. I definitely should start doing that.
Yeah. Well, but I think it's something we're all going through, people in our shoes. And so it's a common thing. So I think it's important to talk about it because everyone's probably struggling with it.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
And some days are better than others, right?
And you talked about having your mentor who started your brokerage. And so is he still pretty involved in helping you build your business, or are you kind of off doing your thing now?
He's there more now for motivation.
Yeah.
He's admitted to me, he's like, you surpassed me.
Right. Okay.
So he put me in touch. He comes to a lot of these conferences, so he put me in touch with a lot of other big players here that he's like, now you need to try to get in the rooms with those people, those big team leaders, and learn what they're doing. So that's my 2024 goal. Go to more conferences. I'll be down here probably a little bit more and just trying to learn from the bigger and better teams.
Just pull that a little bit closer.
Get a little closer.
Yeah. Because there's a really good community of realtors here in Toronto that really support each other, share information and all that stuff. So I think you'll find that there's kind of a lot of people that you can lean on for information once you get in those rooms. So that's great. What else here? So you said you're an investor yourself. And what kind of investing do you prefer? What have you done? What's your strategy of choice?
Right now, flips.
Yeah.
Just with the uncertainty. I still recently bought a buy and hold as well if the deal's right.
Yeah.
But I like the flips because you're in and out, get your money back, your investment back, and then just once I feel it's time to start accumulating again, larger scale, then I'll start doing that at that time.
Is the Sudbury market, obviously it's different than Toronto. Do you see any kind of correlation? Is it lag behind by a certain amount of time, or is it kind of its own little animal that does its own thing?
Yeah, we're a little bit more protected, I find. We do lag behind a little bit. So usually when you guys have news come out here, we get the news 2 months later, roughly. So we can kind of predict what's coming, but it's always, I feel like our ups and downs, our swings are a little bit, like you said, more protected. We're less affected by some of these things. Kind of our own economy.
So is the market going to crash? That's what everybody wants to know. That's it. It's done. It's happened.
Well, I don't know. You guys think 20% is a crash?
Yeah. Well, I mean, technically it is. I mean, that's
huge.
It is for sure. I don't think it's the crash that, the doomsday sayers were hoping and wishing
that's
praying for, but
I find,
it is for sure. It's 20% is
huge.
The definition, I believe, of a crash. Yeah. So it's definitely been, a correction, but I mean, it's not going to zero, right? Real estate is not going anywhere.
No, the demand is just crazy.
Yeah.
And then now with the cost of building, the raising of they want to raise the minimum wage, which is going to cost even more to build, but they won't be able to sell them at the price that they want because the prices are lower. So they're going to reduce the amount of new builds they're going to be doing. So like in Sudbury, they're already doing way less. So supply is even worse, right? So until that gets fixed, it's still going to be a hot market.
Okay, you heard it here. The real estate market is not going to zero.
Turn on the
Hot
TikTok
take.
camera.
So what about condos? There's not a lot of condos in Sudbury, right? Do you see that there would be more coming? Is that kind of a thing that would work in Sudbury?
There's very little, and
Yeah.
they don't move quick at all. There's
Yeah.
maybe like 4 staple condominiums in Sudbury, 5 maybe.
Yeah, I almost bought one on Larch Street
Yep.
at one point, and it was on the market for a long time. It was nice. I mean, there was just across the street was the
Bus depot.
well, there's
that's a little
there's the
further,
bus
yeah.
depot, but there was also I don't know, a shelter of some sort
Yeah,
right across
yeah.
there. So, but I mean, you're in a condo, you're pretty protected, right?
It's protected, yeah, and it's gated access. Too,
yeah,
for the
exactly.
parking there.
So
Yeah, those are decent, good
Yeah.
value. Just in Sudbury, it's not the values aren't there yet.
yeah,
Like
but do you foresee condos like being
Yeah.
more of a thing? Yeah,
once our prices start to reach a certain level,
Right.
it's like in Sudbury, it's taken a while for even
Makes sense.
semis
yeah,
to take off, right?
Yeah.
Now people are accepting that you can get a little cheaper semi
Mm-hmm.
than a house that's still the same size, right? Yeah, you have to share a wall. Then it'll be the row houses, and then I think the condos.
right.
Just the values aren't quite there yet, because
Mm-hmm.
a condos, let's say you pay $400,000 for a condo, you can get a brick bungalow with a yard for $400,000.
Right.
Plus you have a condo fee.
Yeah.
Right?
And there's this like, I think mentality there of people who, you know, they live in Sudbury, they live where they live because they want space. They don't want to be right next to their neighbors. But the thing is, if you can't afford a house and you're living in an apartment, you're in that situation either way. Right. So it makes sense to have kind of an entry level condo that you could buy, but the numbers would have to make sense. It doesn't make sense if it's the same price as a bungalow.
Exactly. And
Right.
it's right now it's, yeah, for the ones that like the few that are selling are around there.
Yeah, yeah. And so a lot of investors, you know, look for off-market deals, but you seem to have been able to help a lot of investors find MLS-listed deals, right? So is there a strategy that you implement to find a deal on the MLS, or are they just there and there's just the kind of this mentality of it needs to be off-market to be a deal?
Oh yeah, there's definitely deals on market.
Yeah,
For sure.
especially right now.
There, it's on and off, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna have good and bad deals for both.
Mm-hmm.
I just started this. What's the channel there on Instagram?
Oh, the broadcast
Yeah,
channel.
broadcast. So I'm starting to post deals of the week there when I
Mm-hmm.
see them on market and off market. But it's mostly just the mentality of like, I see so many that I know which ones now that I really like as deals.
Yeah.
So I'll post them in the group, and then people often jump on them or not, right? If it doesn't
Yeah.
suit them, but I'll just put my favorite one that week, and it's usually like a price drop where it should have sold but didn't. So now it's a better value.
I think that's huge value for you to be providing to clients too, because it's one thing to know, okay, there's been a 20% correction in the market, and you know there's potentially some deals on the market, but how do I find them? Which ones are actual deals? And like to be able to put them on a platter for people, I think is pretty huge. So good for you for that. Have you been finding? Because I know you used to send out the emails, and now you have the broadcast channel on Instagram. Is it? Do you find people take advantage of it?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not. It's a long-term play.
Yeah.
Trying to get.
Yeah.
You know, it's just offering as much value as possible. Eventually, one of them will click with someone. I've sold a few from it for sure.
Nice.
But when I send it out to everyone, they know, like, sometimes with salespeople, they might think I'm just trying to get them to buy a house if
Right.
I'm just telling them, hey, I think this is a really good deal, buy it, right? But sending it to a big group of people, I must be really confident that it's a good deal
Yeah.
to be able to do that. So it kind of increases that trust factor as well.
Right. So speaking of which, is it a good time to buy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if the next 2 years
Yeah.
are key. I just made a video about that. I think there's a critical 2 year, if you don't own a home yet or you want to own a home, save as much as you can for these next 2 years and try to get in. It might fluctuate a little bit, but once they start lowering the rates and they get down to the 5% again, 4.5%, like it's going to skyrocket and you might never ever come back.
Yeah. I think you're probably pretty accurate there, because you know, affordability is key. Obviously, if you can afford at rates now and you can buy now, once it goes down to 4.5% or 5%, then you're laughing. You've built in, you know, that comfortability that you've been able to get by on. So, but being able to afford is the big thing, right?
Yeah, and I thought it was crazy. I put on my Instagram, I asked, would you rather a lower rate or a lower house price?
I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And 60% said lower rate.
Yeah.
I was shocked.
Doesn't make any sense. And like I say this, like every fourth, fifth, like post I put out, I feel like I say this, but people don't seem to understand the correlation that they're kind of levers, right?
Yeah.
When rates go down, prices are going to go up. And so with rates being up, like it's weird because we're now in a buyer's market, but buyers aren't buying.
Yeah, I know.
So it's a strange time.
There's going to be a tipping point.
Yeah.
But if you buy now, you can renegotiate the rate.
Yeah.
Then you have the lower house price and the lower rate in the future.
Yeah.
You just make sure you can actually afford right now, right?
Exactly.
Don't stretch yourself.
That's the biggest thing. Yeah.
Like be safe about it. But yeah, I think this is an opportunity.
Yeah. And something I find with clients as well is people wanting everything at once, right? They want their dream house off the bat. So, so being able to get in at something you can afford now, it doesn't have to be your forever home. And same thing, in 5 years, rates will be better, prices will be what they are, but you'll have some equity built up. And so it's tough. I mean, I see you do a lot of education in your content, but it's necessary. And it's still, do you find it tough to get the message across to people, or once you start working with them, it's easy to get them to understand?
Well, the reason I do the content too is because I want them to see it without me telling them, because I don't want to sound like a sale. Like I do say it's not a good time to buy sometimes, or not a good time to sell, right? Yeah. But I say it to the general public because I want them to see it without me. I don't want to have to convince them to do something, right? I want them to be happy with their decision and have all the facts.
Right.
But if I'm like as salespeople, like I don't want anyone to ever feel like I'm pressuring them into a deal, right? So if I'm telling them one-on-one, sometimes maybe I hope they don't feel it can come off like that, right? And I don't want that.
Makes sense. And so if they can come to you with that understanding after
just
consuming the content. Yeah. Right. And what about Airbnb? How's the Airbnb market in Sudbury?
So I had a full house on Airbnb and it was making $500 a month, but just for the amount of work,
right? I
didn't think it was worth it. And when I could make $100 a month and just have it rented like medium term. Yeah. So I ended up doing that, fully furnished medium term. It was still getting rented. Other people have really good success with it. Yeah. But we have so many lakes in Sudbury that those do well. Yeah. I have clients that have those, right? The cottage ones. Exactly. Yeah. Manitoulin Island. We were just talking about that. Yeah. Man, that place is gorgeous. I did my cottage there for a summer and we did really well. There's a super good deal out there right now. 3 acres on Lake Mindemoya. Okay. It's this close to buying it. Yeah. But that's the thing. I love the idea of it, but it's like, I'd want to focus on doing that, right? And get into a bunch of those rather than just doing one-offs of everything, right? Yeah. Everything takes time. Yeah, you exactly. You kind of realize that. Exactly. And you got to be able to carry it too, right? If like, you worst case off seasons or we have, worst case during COVID, it was amazing and it's still doing well, but you may not expect the same as it was when you couldn't go other places. Yeah, exactly. But I know there's been talk about like Toronto has been buckling down on Airbnbs. I think for Halloween they made sure that you couldn't do a 1 or a 2 night rental in Toronto during Halloween to avoid parties and stuff like that. So I'm wondering, has Sudbury set their Airbnb rules yet? No, so there's still there's still potential for them to do something there. That's interesting. Yeah. I think we're kind of reaching it was so new that you could rent it easily. Make like 80-90% rented. Mm-hmm. I think now we're reaching the level where like some people like me took mine off to do medium term. So we're reaching like a level, a healthy level of Airbnbs. Right. So I don't think it can sustain too many more. Yeah. Yeah. That's just my guess, but I do have a lot of clients doing it and it's been successful. Well, and the midterm makes sense with so many like mining workers who come for short stints and stuff like that. In our hospital. Yeah. That's where I get a lot of people. Yeah, so so it wouldn't make sense for the city to like get rid of it completely then. You wouldn't think. But it wouldn't be the first time a city did something that you wouldn't. Cool. And so
in terms of like rentals there, like what's the strategy? Are people burring? Is that kind of like the best strategy that works there? Does it make sense to buy and hold? I guess it depends on your circumstances, but is the burr been kind of the go-to strategy for people?
Yeah. A lot of DIY renos in Sudbury kind of thing. Most title search companies actually left Sudbury.
Okay.
There's one left and they got a cap on it because there was so many people claiming title insurance because we were mining town, right? Blue collar worker. They would do all the work themselves. I can do it myself, not get permits. Yeah. So then that turned into a lot of title search claims. So there still is protection. It's just capped at 20,000, I think, or 25. And what was
just burring in general.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. So there's a lot of those homes where you can add a lot of value because of that. That's where I was going. Yeah.
But finding good contractors can be a challenge.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing, if it's too good to be true price, like it's too good to be true, you know?
Yeah.
So pay a little bit more. It'll get done faster, quicker, less headaches, and done right.
Right. Cool. So for your business, just as a realtor, where do you see it going? Where would you like it to go? Would you like to continue to build a bigger team? Do you want to continue in production? Do you see yourself exiting, focusing on content more? What do you see for the next 5-10 years?
I kind of I want to grow into other cities, I think. Okay. We're launching a new brand in January. It's going to be called Locals. And then we got our logo and everything. But then we can do Locals Real Estate Manitoulin, Locals Real Estate Ottawa. Okay. So that's in the back burner. I haven't done any work on that yet. Okay. Expanding, but that's just something that I'm thinking of. And
would that's not like a brokerage? That's just
just a team.
Okay. So you'd expand and have members of your team in different areas?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've had someone reach out in Ottawa.
Yep.
An old teacher of mine that got his license, and he's like, "Oh, I'd like to work for you." And I was like, "Oh, that'd be cool, but I don't have the infrastructure right now."
Right.
So eventually, maybe I would do that.
Right. I suppose you could just bring them on your team, you'd be bringing them on your brokerage under your team name, right?
Open up.
Which is so easy to do now that I've never even been to my brokerage's office. They're based in Hamilton.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty amazing how much has changed in a short period of time that you can do that.
Yeah, and the team model is so big now.
Yeah. But you gotta I've seen other people, build teams quickly, and you got to make it sustainable. You got to be able to still make money for yourself and for to keep the machine going. So
that's one thing. The more money you make, the more you have to spend, and the margin gets smaller. But the gross is bigger, right? So it's it's incremental less, I feel with the team,
right?
In a way, but you can step away a little bit more, which is the benefit
for sure. And you can build a brand, which potentially can lead to other things.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that's awesome, man. It's good to see how much you're doing in Sudbury, because we talked about there's not a lot of necessarily forward thinking in the industry, so it's cool that you're kind of at the forefront of that. And
appreciate that. Yeah.
Thanks for coming on the podcast and being here today. If I don't know, any last words, any advice for if you're thinking about going to Sudbury or?
Yeah, if you're coming to Sudbury or you want to invest or see what it's like. If you want to come to Sudbury, invest or see what it's like, you can reach out to me just on Instagram at Real Ritchie. I'm wearing a blue suit in the photo there with a smile. And then if join the deal of the week, because there's posting all there. Even if you're not buying, it's just cool to see sometimes. So,
and you never know. Once you've joined and you get to learn what looks like an actual deal. So once you're ready, bam, you're ready to take action.
Exactly. Yeah. And you can have the confidence.
Sweet. Awesome. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, man.
Thanks so much for joining, guys. Thank you, Tristan, for being here.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. It was awesome. So much to learn about Sudbury. I grew up there, so I know there's a lot of people who are curious. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and let's get it.